Hello everyone. People choose to steal for all sorts of reasons. People want money, some want revenge, and others just want to be cool, especially after seeing all those movies about thieves that look like James Bond. But real life is quite different, and very often, even the most elaborate robberies can go wrong. Although if the criminals' plan was becoming YouTube stars, then they did a great job thanks to CCTV cameras. So let's take a look at these epic fails from the criminal world. Let's get it on. In Western countries, walking around the house wearing shoes is normal, but in Singapore, the tradition is different. Shoes are often left on special racks outside the apartment, and usually this doesn't cause any problems. But it turns out that some thieves love to steal other people's flip-flops. This video was filmed by a security camera and then posted on Facebook. It shows two girls quietly and carelessly rummaging through someone else's shoes, apparently trying to choose the perfect pair. Both thieves appear to be barefoot. Does this mean that they try to steal the sandals out of despair? We're not sure, but anyway, it didn't work. Apparently, the criminals heard some noise and fled. This guy may be a thief, but he definitely knows a lot about dancing. This security camera video was released by the DC police. It shows a man in a blue jacket. At first, he cautiously looks around and then he suddenly starts dancing right on the porch. Why? No idea. He even looks right into the camera, but just doesn't stop. And then he just picks up someone else's packages, gets into a black Range Rover and leaves. Interestingly, this happened on a Sunday at 1 p.m. Not a good time for a robbery, but the dancer didn't care. Nobody even tried to stop him. Or maybe people just didn't dare to mess with a man who dances on the porch in the middle of the day.
Damn!
Anyway, the police took the case very seriously and offered a reward of $1,000 for any information about the thief. Many robbers hide their faces behind a mask, but this criminal went a little further because he hid behind a giant Rudolph's deer mask. Although we believe it was a girl, but that doesn't matter. What does matter is that Rudolph stole some unnamed items, and it all happened on December the 18th, just before Christmas. The police asked people to share any information about the identity of the perpetrator and promised to hand it directly to Santa. After all, it is his deer. You think a Christmas deer costume is weird? Then what about a giraffe costume? At around 2 in the morning, a man dressed as a giraffe entered the building of Extended Grace, a non-profit organization, and started trying on clothes. He also had a donut and left a piece on the counter. As we were watching the video, I admit it, we were laughing. It was really surprising, said Executive Director Barbara Lee. Of course, they were not happy about the robbery, but the employees of this organization that helps people struggling with mental illness and addiction are more concerned about the person. Giraffe Guy seems to have some kind of problem, and it was unlikely that he took the clothes for profit. Robbing people is a bad idea, especially if your target is a martial arts expert. When Meredith Livingood was approached about lessons outside her studio, the woman didn't expect to have to show off her skills. The thing is that the student turned out to be a thief. Meredith Livingood pulled her phone out to show the young man the practice schedule, but a moment later, he snatched the phone from her hand and tried to escape on his bike. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. Meredith easily stopped the thief and forced him to release the phone. We gotta say, the guy got off pretty easy. What lesson can we learn from this situation then? Oh yeah, you shouldn't underestimate women, especially if they're martial arts instructors. Imagine you're at the bank, in a bad mood, and suddenly a robber bursts in with a toy gun. That's exactly what happened to James Rowley in South London. He was at a bank when Andrew Fernandez walked in and started waving his gun, demanding money. But Rowley noticed that the gun wasn't real and decided to take a risk. He asked the criminal to leave, and when the robber tried to run, James chased him with a fire extinguisher. Rowley, a window cleaner, chased the criminal down the street and caught him, and then he waited for the police to arrive. As for Fernandez, well, it was definitely not his day. There are videos that are quite painful to watch, and this is one of them. It was filmed at a shopping mall in Australia, where a young thief snatched a bag from a 50-year-old woman. The guy ran away but didn't notice the glass door, and yeah, he crashed right into it. The criminal was helped to get on his feet by his accomplice, and it was pretty difficult. Apparently, it's not easy to come to your senses when you've just been knocked out by a glass door. Afterwards, the criminals threatened the witnesses with a gun, got to a stolen green Lexus, and left the scene very quickly. Rings can sometimes be a problem. If you don't believe us, just ask Frodo. So, a 52-year-old Ronald Purley got himself into a pretty awkward situation. He walked into a jewelry store to steal a $3,200 diamond ring. However, the employees locked up Purley and asked him to return the jewelry, but then he just swallowed the ring. Don't try anything like this though, it's a very bad idea. When the police arrived, Purley denied everything. He said that there was no ring and he didn't take anything, let alone swallow it. The police got a search warrant and the suspect was taken to the hospital for an x-ray. The doctors confirmed that Purley had indeed swallowed the ring. He was immediately arrested and then charged with theft and falsifying physical evidence. We said before that you shouldn't underestimate women, right? Well, that includes grandmas too. There were no cops around when this gang raided a jewelry store. But luckily, Anne Timson was there. This 71-year-old lady stopped the criminals on her own. She rushed across the street and started beating up the robbers with her purse, which at the time only had a wallet and a newspaper inside. And amazingly, it worked. The footage of the fierce attack was shown all over the world and received hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube. Thanks to Anne, one man was arrested at the scene and 4 others were brought before the Northampton Crown Court in connection with robbery and car theft. An unidentified guy hit a man on the head with a stone and tried to escape, but the police weren't going to allow that. The officers and a canine unit chased the suspect and cornered him. They were separated only by a fence, and the law officers told the guy to climb over the fence to finally arrest him. The suspect obeyed, but when he was halfway there, his pants suddenly got caught up in the fence. A situation worthy of the Looney Tunes. The cops helped the guy down, of course, but they weren't too polite with his pants. You think knights are a thing from the past? Well, we found at least one modern yet medieval warrior. Wanting to get some quick money, a man named Richard committed a burglary in his neighborhood in Slidell in Louisiana. But what does this have to do with knights? The fact is, this guy didn't have a mask, so instead, he decided to hide his face under a huge bucket. Unfortunately for him, it didn't help. The security cameras did catch his face, and it helped the police identify him. Later, he was arrested at his house on a burglary charge, after the officers stopped laughing at his helmet and managed to get on with the case. Many robberies seem very elaborate, and this one started out as one of them. An unidentified man tried to pull an ATM out of a small store in Townsville. The burglar parked a car, prepared the chain, broke the glass. All of this would have worked if it hadn't been for one little thing. The man forgot to connect the chain, and he realized it a bit too late. After a while, the criminal came back, tried to connect the chains, but the car was parked too far. The chains just couldn't reach each other. After a hesitant attempt to continue the robbery, the man finally gave up and left. Robberies are usually pretty similar. The criminal enters the premises, threatens everyone with a weapon, takes something valuable and leaves. Some things can change, of course, but not much. But what happened at a jewelry store in Minnesota does not fit into any scenario. Around noon, 4 men tried to break into a store, but they suddenly walked upon, no, not guards, neither cops, but the store owner, his son and his brother, and they were all armed with swords. Swords! The robbery took place in 2018, by the way, not in the 17th century. Apparently not expecting this, the criminals just chose to flee. And it's pretty obvious why. The mother of the family could walk in with a crossbow at any time, or a grandma with a purse, then they would have all been doomed. Hey, stop being lazy, it's time to use that brain of yours. Welcome to Brain Time. Incredible facts from the past, the present, and even the future. the power of nature and wild animals, amazing facts and unsolved mysteries. You'll find all this and much more here. Subscribe now, you won't regret it.